Hello, hope everyone's doing well. And today we're going over the new French event, the full scales. Before we get into that, I have a little bit of housekeeping to do. I apologize that the tier list video of recommendations for the wishing well is incorrect because Sirius and Nagato are not on that. And there's others, but those are the two I went through and said those are definitely not there. So I apologize, that's wrong. They made it sound like it would be any ships added, not currently in. But then that doesn't make sense because Takao is out of the heavy pool and in the metal shop like Sirius and Nagato, but she's available in the wishing well, so I'm not sure what the deal is there. Maybe it's a mistake, but regardless, I apologize for the incorrect information. And yeah, so hopefully I can not make similar errors in the future. So, moving on to some other stuff in the general 5th anniversary things. The castle, you click on the little castle in the home menu, it takes you to the event hub, and then the Castle of Celebrations, you click on that. It'll have the ambience level. It have some ships wearing party dresses in a little like mini dorm area. So what you want to do is move the ship girls to. They'll have a little icon of like something they want to do. So one will be like the dance floor, one will be the bar, one will be at the desserts table, and then one will just have a heart over her head. So move them to their respective locations that match their pictures. And the one with the heart over their head, you just tap on them like you do in the dorm, and that will complete that mission. And that'll give you a certain amount of ambiance points for doing that, and then complete the missions. If you go through the ambiance level and sortie task or sortie tasks, where that French word is, it'll say, hey, okay, there's all this stuff. Do that, and because you want to get level 1 unlocked as soon as possible, because that will give you increased affection gain from sorties. So you can get your new friendships, or if you got someone new from the wishing well, get them leveled up. That is very, very nice. Now, onto the new French event. Alright, so that's out of the way. Let's move on to the actual ships themselves and when I think of them. As I hinted to last night in my community post, when I read the data mine, my first thought was, ugh, that's a lot of RNG on these skills, and I'm not a huge fan of the RNG. I'd rather have ships be consistent, regular activations. My main gripe with Helena is that she's not consistent enough. So that's a common occurrence with these ships, is that they kind of lack in the consistency with their skills. They're a little bit of RNG. But we'll start off with the flagship of this event, Clemenceau. She is a Richelieu class battleship. So she will have a preload, as I believe all the French battleships do, except for maybe Gascon. Overall, looks pretty decent. Looks like a hybrid of Richelieu and Jean Bart, especially if you have Vishaya ships in your fleet with her, and so she seems to like being in a French fleet. So her first skill, Will the Tribunal, buffs her accuracy, and then when the battle starts, for each Vishaya Dominion ship in your fleet, she buffs her firepower and AA by 5%. So innately, she gets a 5% from herself, and you have 5 others. That's up to 30% buff. That's really nice for having a Vishaya themed fleet. Obviously, there's other ways to get nice buffs without having all Vishaya ships, but that is an option. And when the battle starts, if there's a Vishaya Dominion ship in your Vanguard, buffs are reload. So that's, an incentive to have a Vishaya ship in your Vanguard. So I'm thinking, Algeria, Suffren, Marseille, those 3. Mainly Marseille is the one I'm most interested in trying out for French fleet, just because she buffs like Richelieu buffs, which is like a 15% buff to firepower, torpedo, AA, all that good stuff. That's really nice buffs, and that's a Vanguard providing those buffs to the entire fleet. So yeah, run her Clemenceau with Marseille or something like that. Really nice combination. Hopefully you grab Marseille from either grinding the event or doing light pulls last event. Next skill, Guiding Flames of Intrigue, is a barrage and fires her main guns, and she has a preloaded main gun, so she will have one ready when the battle starts. It's a 75% chance by default, and then when enemies are hit by the barrage, they decrease their firepower, torpedo, and aviation stats decrease by 5% for 5 seconds. Then, if you have 5 French ships, so either faction, in your fleet, or she has a Iris Orthodoxy gear equipped, increase the barrage activation chance by 25%, so it becomes guaranteed. So, if you don't want to run a bunch of French ships, you could just run the Champagne gun, the Flandre gun. Those 2 are really good options for her. They're strong guns. The Flandre gun's a little bit faster, but a little bit weaker than the Champagne gun. Still is an option, but it fulfills that requirement for her. Maybe the Flandre could be a little better because she can inflict that debuff, and then the rest of your, battleships or whatever you're using can take advantage of that debuff. Debuff's not infecting defense, so it's not the best for that. Yeah, so guaranteed barrage, really nice. And her last skill, Holy Siege Judgment. She gets extra crit rate for her main gun and crit damage for her main gun. So crit rate 12%, damage 15%. And then her first salvo that is manual aimed, always will be a crit. So in that regard, she's much like John Bart. Except she doesn't have the stupid gun requirement that John Bart says, okay, you want to have this gun in particular. Clemenceau can be any French gear or have a bunch of French ships in the fleet. So yeah, I quite like her. I'd probably run her with Richelieu and then Marseille, as I said. That way she gets a bunch of nice buffs, gets an extra reload buff. And yes, that was Clemenceau. Alright, next up is Guichen. That's how close I can get to her pronunciation in game. She seems to be the AA ship of the week. Seems like they're trying to fill in all the factions' flaws of not having great AA unless they're Eagle Union. That's very nice. It's extra speed from her first skill, Shells or Sorcery, so that's nice. And Evasion, so a lot of the French ships are very fast, and they all get evasion buffs, so common occurrence, really nice. And then when she fires her main guns 6 times, she has a chance to activate one of the 2 following effects. Either she fires a special barrage, scaling off the skills level, obviously, or she fires her main guns twice more. I don't know if that twice more restarts the stack or it's after this or it doesn't count. So, the barrage would probably be nicer, but it's not one's really good, one's really bad. They're both kind of in the middle. So that's decent. It's not, she's going to completely screw with her RNG skills. And their other skill, Prophetic Witch, firepower and AA by 15%. So I'm thinking as an anti-air ship to deal with that. I believe in her intro she says anti-aircraft light cruiser. And then further increases her ship's anti-air by 5% when any aircraft is shut down within your AA range. This can be stacked up to 5 times, so you get a total of 40 anti-air buff. That's really nice. And she's got decent anti-air to begin with. And when the battle starts, it'll randomly choose one of the ship's stats between firepower, torpedo, and accuracy, and increase it by 5% when this ship fires with torpedoes. This can be stacked up to 3 times, So it seems like it'll be that one stat for the battle. It's not gonna do firepower and maybe go to accuracy, or maybe go to torpedo, maybe double firepower. It'll be firepower, 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 torpedo, 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 accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. So, fast torpedoes seem to be nice. Just get those stacks up quickly. And then the last part of the skill, when the battle starts, if there's another French ship in the fleet, when this effect activates, also sets the speed of a random enemy to 0 for 2 seconds. So, a slower is always really nice. So, yeah, overall, pretty decent. Especially if you want to be running a French fleet in, like, Chapter 13, where there's a lot of planes. And she's got a slow or a stall, so she can, either if she's mobbing, halt enemies, or halt the boss, so your battleships can hit her. You have to time that with your torpedoes, obviously. So, yeah, overall, pretty decent. Yeah, so nice little anti-air battery for a French ship. Okay, next up is Painleve from either the event shop, the map drop, or you can get her in the structure pool. That's how I got her, actually. At least my first copy so far. So her first skill, Morningstar's Guidance. Every 18 seconds, activates one of the following effects, chosen at random. So, not a huge fan of the random effect, but we'll see what it is. Increase this ship's and your flagship's damage dealt by 8% for 8 seconds. So if you time that with your flagship shooting, then that's or launching an aircraft. Really good combination there. Be a nice buff. It's not the whole main fleet. So if you're running her and you plan to be buffing your flagship this way, definitely make sure it's your strongest ship on flagship for this purpose. And that they line up within that, 16 to or 18 to 20 second window. Say it's about safe for that. Or the second option is to buff her, so Painleve's aviation stat by 15%, and decrease your frontmost vanguard, so your farthest on the left, damage taken by 8%. So that's okay. There's gonna be some kind of damage buff for her, and either it's a overall flagship damage buff or a tanky buff for your frontmost vanguard. So that's kind of a mixed bag, but I think it's okay. There's definitely been a lot worse free ships in the event shop. And the second skill I like a lot more. So Holy Iris Wishes increases the reload by 15%, and 5 seconds after the ship launches an airstrike, restores 7% of this ship's and all of your Vanguard ships' respective max HP. So it doesn't scale off her HP for that 7% for the restoration, it's all of everyone else's. So let's say you have St. Louis or Brest, it'll scale off their HP for that 7%. And then if the recipient is at less than 25% HP, so they're almost dead, it heals an additional 100 HP. So that's not a whole lot, but for a destroyer, that could be really useful. So they have a really small HP pool in comparison. So overall, pretty solid. Nice healer, can be a nice, decent buffer. But then that RNG faction, yeah, it's overall pretty nice. A nice healer, and it's free. She's already an SSR, so you don't have to retrofit her like Unicorn. So yeah, overall, pretty solid. Not too bad. Okay, we're moving on to the elites now. We have Kersaint, the DD that is in the point accumulation, so continuing on with the theme of the free ships. And she's definitely suffers from the fact that she is the point accumulation ship, she's an elite, so stats are kind of meh. What I'm noticing her niche probably is gonna be is for ASW purposes. So she's over 200 ASW stat, which I consider the good threshold. If you're above that, good to go. And also, she has her one skill that buffs her anti-air and her ASW by 10%. That's really nice. So, decent AA battery. Her AA stat, never mind, not so decent AA battery, but ASW purposes, seems pretty decent. And then the rest of her skill is more RNG problems. Every 20 seconds, trigger one of the following randomly, plus 20% firepower torpedo for 10 seconds. She's rocking with at 125, 110 firepower, and 287 torpedo, which doesn't have a whole lot of scale off with to begin with. And then she gets she gets plus 20 crit damage for 10 seconds. If she had more damage to do, maybe she can crit the submarines better. And then her last part of the skill, I think, honestly, is the best part of the skill, other than the ASW, is heal 5% to the lowest French ship in the fleet. So every 20 seconds, potentially get a heal, potential damage buff, but she's not very strong to begin with. So yeah, I like her design. However, she does not seem very good. Yeah, that's unfortunate for her, but she is very cute. And she is Vaclin's sister, so it's points for related to the funniest cream girl. Let's move on. All right, next up we have Lyon. She is a elite battleship. This one was the girl that took most of my cubes to get. Took like 200 or so to get her, which sucked. Want to use those on the wishing well, but finally got her. So firepower stat looks pretty decent. That's in the 400s, so that's nice. And her first skill, Absolving Light. When she fires her main guns, 50% chance to activate a special barrage. So yeah, I wish it was higher. 65 was like Vittoria was at. 70 would be even better. Obviously, 100 would be perfect, but I don't think so. And it'll be a special barrage using main gun shells and torpedoes. So she does have a torpedo stat. It is a thing. She can't equip torpedoes, but the stat is there. I believe a Magi can use torpedoes, so can like Odin shoots torpedo barrages, and so does the Scharnhorst and Gneiss now. So, some battleships, battle cruisers using torpedoes. Very cool. So yeah, that's okay. Obviously, if it was higher activation rate, it'd be a lot better. But it got a decent torpedo firepower stat. Torpedoes stats, not great. On the little performance wheel, it's at a D, as is her AA and speed. And then her second skill, Sanctification, buffs her firepower and accuracy by 10%, and increases her shelling and torpedo damage taken by 10%. So yeah, it just seems kind of generic in terms of what I assume her performance will be. Nothing too crazy, nothing that really stands out to me like, wow, this is going to be a huge difference for French fleets. It's just like, she can fit in anywhere. So she's not restricted to her French fleet. Obviously, having someone like Richelieu or Marseille there to buff her would be a lot nicer, but she's not restricted to that. So if you really like her and want to use her in your favorite ship fleet, there you go. All right, moving on. Okay, wrapping up with the final ship that is from this event, Suffren, or Suffren, as she pronounced it. It was very hard to pick up on what she was saying exactly, but she is a heavy cruiser. She's elite. But honestly, she's in terms of performance, like looking at her skills, she's the one I'm most excited for. So yeah, it's, you know, we have an elite SSR battleship and aircraft of the heels. I'm most excited for the elite heavy cruiser. That's surprising. So her skills: Admiral Satan, Satan, but for firepower torpedo by 50%. Nice. When the battle starts, and when she fires her main gun 6 times, increases her damage dealt by 10% for 30 seconds. So having a really fast main gun on her would be really nice. I'm thinking like the rune gun. It's pretty quick. That's what I have on her. And this effect does not stack. So if you have it and you have a really fast gun and it keeps overlapping with that 30 seconds, it does not stack, but it refreshes the timer. So you can likely have that going almost non-stop with that 10% extra damage. So that alone, really, really nice. And then her next skill, the Guardian Lady Knight, increases her AA and evasion by 10%. Nice survival stats there. And if she has French gear equipped, she decreases your French, so all your French, both factions, damage taken during battle by 10%. So that is Vanguard, Main Fleet, Surcouf, the whole shebang. They're all getting 10% less damage. So honestly, running Brest as the main tank, Marseille in the middle, and Suffren on the far right side as the off tank seems like a really, really potent potential French fleet. Obviously, you would probably want to run the Beaver tag on one of them because that's going to be a bit slower because you're not using a destroyer, using a heavy cruiser and a large cruiser. They are French, they're a bit faster, which is nice to compensate. Yeah, I'm honestly really excited to use Suffren out of all of them. So that was all the ships that were added in this event. And I guess we'll move on to the gear. So the piece of gear available in the event shop is a CLHE gun, and it looks really good. It looks like one of the better ones. Got really nice stats. Let's pull up. 21 times 6, fire rate of 3.4. That's pretty good. It's HE, and it's got really good against light, so 140, 105, 70. So as expected from HE, really good for that. It's Iris Libre, so you can use that to fulfill some requirements for various ships. You can use it as a secondary, but I generally like having AP guns as secondaries on my battleships, so you only have one, so I would say save it for one of your light cruisers. That's what I recommend for this gun. So yeah, overall, definitely worth picking up this gun to use as your light cruiser main gun. All right, and we'll move on to the gear drops from the event stages. So that's where the blueprints from. For D stages, these are the ones that we want to be farming. The really good two options, there's 2 of them, is D1, D2. D3, you get the gun that's really good for John Bark. That's the only person you really want to be using it on, and John Bark gets extra buff from having that gun specifically. So not really worth that gun, but you get the extra points. You can get on love, but the gun not so great. D2, you can get the Algeria gun. So that was been available during, I believe, Iris Light and Dark as one of those guns available there. That's a really nice HE gun. Probably a little weaker than the new one we're getting from the event shop, but still a really good option. And D1, you get quite a good HE DD gun. Now, my one problem with this DD gun is the barrage is kind of like a shotgun. It's kind of like all over the place when it shoots. It's not straight lines. So that's my one gripe with the gun, but overall, it's pretty decent. So for farming priorities, D1 and then D2. And if you just want to get points to get over with, D3. C2 also has a repair toolkit, but other than that, none of the purple gear is really standing out to me. So yeah, D1, D2, and then D3, basically in order. That is my priority list for the event maps. Alright, and to finish the video, we'll go over the PR updates. So this is Fate Sim 5 for Harbin, Chakalov, and Prince Ruprecht, real quick. Full disclosure, I don't really use any of them. Harbin, I'm going to use at some point, but I just need to get her Dev 30 and get her to Fate Sim 5 and get her to level 125, staying a little bit. And then Prince Ruprecht, I've built, have not used her, have not really looked at her skills. And Chakalov, not really built, on the back burner for PR priorities. So that's full disclosure, but here are my general thoughts. So Prince Ruprecht gets a heal, and then her barrage, based off of when she fires her secondaries, is improved. So that's nice. I like the heal. More survivability is always nice. And then Harbin just gets extra stats, improved barrage, quite nice. She's being used in PvP, so I'll make her even stronger for that, continuing her lifespan in that meta. And then Chakalov, I wrote down the most for this one, even though I don't really use her. She ends up getting a slow, and she also has a built-in, I believe, medium and heavy niche. That's quite nice. But the problem with her slow is it's tied to when she finishes loading an airstrike, not when she launches one. So if you're going to be using her on auto as your slower, just be aware it's not when she launches, it's when she finishes loading. So you might have to adjust your timing slightly for that. And finally, the out of all of these, I'm most excited for is the West Virginia Retrofit. She just becomes a really good battleship buffer. It's a slowing barrage if there's any other battleships or battlecruisers in the fleet, and if enemies hit by this barrage also take more damage from battleships and battlecruisers. So there will be backline or one battlecruiser or two battlecruisers in there, and West Virginia becomes a really, really good budget option for battleship fleets, battleship boss fleets, and also she's available in, I believe it's the core data shop, so you can get her there, reasonably easily. Not the highest priority. I would say Rune Moose is above her, but yeah, she definitely got bumped up a bit. So yeah, that was my coverage of the full scales event, as well as some of the other updates that were in here. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it useful. Thank you for watching. If you found it useful, share it out. Might help someone else. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.